get a 3.
Or you could be like me
And get a 3.
in AP.
Now, to begin this chapter, we're going to look at 4 main things you should be able to go off of after studying this chapter. So, number 1, you got to be able to analyze the causes and consequences of Europe's 14th century demographic disaster. Number 2, describe and explain the significance in world history of technological development and urbanization in the Latin West in the later Middle Ages. Number 3, understand the ways in which the intellectual developments of the later Middle Ages reflected Westerners' views of themselves and their relationship to the past. And finally, number 4, you have to be able to understand the ways in which the 100-Year War and the emergence of the new monarchies lay the foundations for the modern European state system. Now, to begin with, we're going to be looking at peasants' population and also the plague. So, starting in 1200 CE, Europeans were mainly bound to the land through serfdom, while most of them were peasants. Usually, 50 to 30 farming families would support the noble households through taxation. During this time of about 1000 to 1445, European population almost doubled. Now what this did is it increases necessities for increased crop cultivation, which put even more pressure on the land that we've been seeing throughout the past units here. This led to many farmlands being cultivated and overused, which caused crop cultivation to end up declining due to the barren landscapes that they would create. However, the population pressure caused by this doubling of population was quickly eased by the Black Death, which was brought upon through fleas and rats of that nature, spreading through things like the Mongols and things like that. This occurred between 1350 and 1400. It completely destroyed the population of Europe and ravished most of the land in that area also. Now looking at how the plague caused social rebellion in this era, as a result of the many deaths across the peasant population and also noble population due to the plague, labor became more expensive in Western Europe. Now what this did is it gave rise to a series of peasant and worker rebellions, and as they fought for higher wages in the end of serfdom. Now remember, since the working conditions at the time were very poor, this lack of labor was very good for the peasants because they needed something to help increase their working standards. And because of this, rural living standards improved, and this started a period of apprenticeship where artisans would teach younger people their trade and kind of create a flow of workers that way. Also, by looking at the industrial enterprise during this time, it rose greatly. Mining, ironworking, stone quarrying, things like that rose to heights that they'd never seen before. This led to greater productivity in industrial work, and also, as a negative, environmental damage, which we could see in water population and deforestation.
During the urban revival, there became increases in trade and manufacturing contributed to the growth of the cities after 1200. Textile industries also began to develop in England and in Florence. Europeans made extensive use of water wheels and windmills in the textile, paper, and other industries. Incorporating the civic life, some European cities were city-states, while others enjoyed autonomy for local nobles. Guilds regulated the practices of and access to trades. Women were rarely allowed to join guilds, but they did work in unskilled non-guild jobs in the textile industry and in the food and beverage trades. Gothic cathedrals are the masterpieces of late medieval architecture and craftsmanship. Their distinctive features include the pointed Gothic arch, flying buttresses, high towers, and spires, and a large interior lit by huge windows. After 1200, literature and learning in the Renaissance began to grow. After 1200, colleges and universities emerged as new centers of learning. Some were established by students. Most were teaching guilds established by professors to oversee the training, control, and the membership and fight for the interests of the profession. Humanists began to use this knowledge, and some humanists wrote in vernacular. Most of them wrote in Latin. Many worked to restore the original texts of Latin and Greek authors in the Bible through exhaustive comparative analysis of the many various versions that had been produced. The influence of the humanist writers was to increase the development of the printing press. Johann Gutenberg perfected the art of printing in 1455. Gutenberg's press and more than 200 others had produced at least 10 million printed works by 1500. Renaissance artists in this time, 14th and 15th centuries artists, built one of the more natural paintings in the Giotto as they developed a style of painting that concentrated on the depiction of Greek and Roman gods in all the scenes from daily life. The artistic and intellectual developments of the Renaissance did not stop in Europe. The university, printing, and oil painting were later adopted all over the world. The final point we're going to discuss is the political and military transformations. In the 13th century, European states were ruled by the weak monarchs whose power was limited by their modest treasuries, the regional nobility, the independent towns, and the church. Two changes in weapons began to undermine the utility, and therefore the economic position, of noble knights. These two innovations were the armor-piercing crossbow and the development of firearms. Later on, monarchs still faced resistance between them and the vassals. This caused the 100 Years' War that pitted France against England, whose King Edward III claimed the French throne in 1337. The war was fought with new military technology, crossbows, longbows, pikes, and firearms, including an improved cannon. The French, whose superior cannon destroyed the castles of the English and their allies, finally defeated the English. The war left the French monarchy in a stronger position than ever. The new monarchies that emerged after the 100 Years' War had stronger central governments, more stable national boundaries, and stronger representative institutions. The new monarchs had to find new sources of revenue to pay for these standing armies. To raise money, the new monarchs taxed land, merchants, and the church.
Now, in conclusion, we need to be able to look over four things. A. Ecologically, the people of Latin Europe harnessed the power of wind and water and mined and refined their mineral wealth at the cost of pollution and deforestation. B. Politically, frequent wars caused kingdoms of moderate size to develop exceptional military strength. C. Culturally, autonomous universities and printing supported the advance of knowledge. And finally, D. Many of the tools that the Latin West used to challenge Eastern supremacy originated in the East.